I think this might be one of the most clever movies ever made. 2 weeks ago, I watched this movie in linear order, which was an incredibly eye-opening experience. I realized that the storyline is actually really straightforward and simple, and now I understand why it was so important that this movie was told in the crazy order that it was told in. I highly recommend that before you watch this video, you watch part 1, the chronological summary, because in that video, I explain the ending, the climax, the Sammy Jenkins story, Natalie, Teddy, John G, Leonard's photos, and every major plot detail in chronological order. The whole purpose of part 1 is to resolve any confusion you might have. In this video, part 2, the analysis, we'll dig deeper into the meaning of the movie and what it's trying to communicate to the audience thematically. So welcome to Classic Explained, episode 15, Memento, part 2, analysis. To break this movie down, we're going to use 2 themes. 1, fluidity of memory, where we'll discuss the film structure, the black and white scenes, the color scenes, the opening reverse sequence, the tattoos, Leonard's false purpose, Leonard versus Sammy, Jimmy's death, and Gamel's moment of honesty. 2, quest for closure, where we'll discuss Leonard's unhealable pain, Natalie's kiss, Leonard's flashbacks of his wife, the escort scene, the book burning scene, and the photo of Leonard pointing to his chest, and much more. And if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and a comment, it helps so much. And if you want to see more of these, please make sure to subscribe as well. Let's get started. Theme number 1, fluidity of memory. Most certainly, the first thing I gotta cover in this video is the incredibly disjointed structure of this movie. So this is how the movie is structured. As you watch this movie, you'll notice the film going back and forth between black and white scenes and color scenes. The black and white scenes tell the first half of the story, and they run in basic linear forward order. The first black and white scene is the first part of the story. The second black and white scene is the second part of the story. The third black and white scene is the third part of the story, and so on. Very simple. However, the color scenes tell the second half of the story, and they run in backwards order. So the first color scene in the movie is the last part of the story, and the second color scene in the movie is the second last part of the story, and the third color scene in the movie is the third last part of the story, and so on. This is why, at the end of the movie, we're actually watching the middle of the story, where we see the black and white transition into color. The purpose of this structure is to showcase to us the reliability of fact and the unreliability of personal experience. The black and white scenes are much more objective. They're filmed in black and white, symbolizing how the situation is very much black and white, straightforward and factual. The linear order of the black and white scenes is dependable for the viewer. We can rely on what we're watching. And the lack of color and the often calm tone of the narration leaves very little room for us to feel personal emotions or create our own interpretations. Leonard is also by himself, and we never hear the voice of the other person on the phone. The entire black and white half of this movie is a third-person point of view. The color scenes, however, are the opposite. They are very unreliable. These scenes put us in the shoes of Leonard. We also, as the viewers, have memory loss because we never know what just happened. We have to wait for the next scene to find out what just happened, and once we see this next scene, we're confused about what happened before that scene, so we have to wait till the next one. This disoriented point of view allows Leonard to be very easily manipulated by the other characters, and it allows us to be very easily manipulated by the basic plot points of the story. It's a struggle for us to fill in the blanks upon first watch. And just like Leonard, we have to hope that the pictures, notes, and tattoos are enough to depend on. I said this before, but I swear, if you watch this movie in linear order, which I did 2 weeks ago, it's a shockingly simple story. And I think that's what makes this decision in structure so brilliant. It captures the character's experience and the major themes of the movie so much more vividly. The undeveloping photo in the very first shot of the movie establishes the loss of memory, as the images in Leonard's mind slowly fade away. This opening scene also establishes the backwards nature of this movie, as it literally plays in reverse. And since Leonard can't depend on his memory, he has a series of tattoos all over his body. And these tattoos are Leonard's most imperative reminders. They're tattoos to simply ensure his survival, like eat, condition yourself, habit and routine, learn by repetition, buy film, and a pyramid reminding him to photograph his house, his car, his friends, and his foes. I said this in the previous video, but he has a tattoo saying never answer the phone, because he was likely previously manipulated through the phone, since Leonard won't be able to read facial expressions on the phone. And of course, there are also tattoos for Leonard to avenge his wife, which we see across his chest and upper body. He also has details and clues on who this killer is. But Leonard doesn't only rely on facts to maintain his sanity and purpose. And I feel like this is what makes the movie that much more thought-provoking. Leonard actually relies on the fluidity of memory to maintain his sanity and purpose. And here's what I mean. Leonard can't bear the fact that he is the one who unintentionally killed his own wife, so he distorts his own memories before his wife's death. The entire flashback story about Sammy Jenkins that I covered in part 1 was actually a mixture of memories that Leonard subconsciously mixed together himself. Leonard was actually the one who unintentionally killed his wife, the same way we see Sammy Jenkins do in the flashback. This is why in the final shot of Sammy Jenkins in the care home, we see Leonard for a split second in the same position. This brief shot is a symbol of what Leonard could have been if he didn't subconsciously distort his own memory. If Leonard didn't make up the memory of there being a killer of his wife, he would have no purpose. And this is why Leonard always compares Sammy Jenkins to himself throughout this film. Sammy Jenkins had no drive or reason to make it work. Me? Yeah, I got a reason. Leonard here is comparing the new version of himself who has purpose and a fake murderer against the Sammy Jenkins version of himself that would have no purpose, knowing there was no one to avenge and only himself to blame. Leonard always reminds his friends about Sammy Jenkins because it's a continuous way for Leonard to justify his actions. And this, I think, is why Jimmy Grant says Sammy before he dies. He's trying to remind Leonard that they know each other, but of course it was too late. We also see Gamble mention Sammy Jenkins to Leonard to stop him from strangling him and save himself, where it wasn't too late. And I personally think, at the end of this movie, everything Gamble told Leonard was completely true. I just feel like there would be no reason in lying to Leonard at this moment, because Leonard is just going to forget everything Gamble told him. And at this moment, the truth would be the best thing for Gamble to tell Leonard in order to neutralize Leonard's aggression by shocking him emotionally. And Gamble knows Leonard is just going to restart in the next 10 minutes, so it's fine if he tells Leonard all of his plans to continue to manipulate him. And everything Gamble is saying ties in perfectly with Leonard's emotional attachment to Sammy Jenkins, as well as his never-ending search for closure. Which brings me to theme number 2, quest for closure. With Leonard's condition, he almost has no ability to give himself a purpose that he can pursue for life. He can no longer set long-term goals or build on a challenging career like insurance investigation. And most importantly, it will be almost impossible for him to meet someone new and start a family. And here's why. When he's spending the night at Natalie's place, he says a really fascinating line about the perceived recency of his wife's death. I lie here, not knowing how long I've been alone. So how can I heal? How am I supposed to heal if I can't feel time? Since the last thing Leonard remembers is his wife's death, her death will always feel like it just happened. Every new memory disappears after that. This makes it almost impossible for him to find a new romantic partner. He always feels like his wife just died. This is why when Natalie kisses him, he barely kisses her back, and he simply says, sorry, and leaves. At lunch with Gamble, Leonard says the murderer of his wife destroyed his ability to live. Gamble cleverly replies, you're living. And Leonard says, only for revenge. Leonard's whole goal in this movie is to have closure for the death of his wife. Time won't heal him and give him closure because he can't feel time. So if time can't give him closure, Leonard resorts to revenge. But every time Leonard kills a John G, he forgets that he got revenge, so he can't even have closure that way. So literally, the only thing that Leonard can do that will give him the will to continue to live is keep chasing John G after John G after John G. It's this infinite loop where he's on this never-ending quest for closure. And he will never actually get closure. It's pretty heartbreaking the more I think about it. Closure brings peace to oneself, and Leonard will never get this inner peace back. And this inner peace is what Leonard wants more than anything. This is why, throughout the film, we get these split-second silent glimpses into this peace of mind that Leonard wants back so badly. The shots and short scenes of him and his wife before the incident are the most peaceful in the whole movie. They're brief, gentle, quiet, and flawless. They're like a dream of a life that was once perfect. And very sadly, the scene with the escort is Leonard's desperate attempt in recreating and reliving this piece where his wife is alive. However, whenever he recreates this moment, he can't help but be reminded of the death of his wife and the incident. This is why, later that night, he burns his wife's belongings, hoping in some way he can forget about who she was and what she meant to him. It's his final alternative attempt for closure, but it never works. In the previous video, I spoke about this photo and how Leonard seems to recognize it when it is slipped under his door. I think the moment in this photo is a memory that is so enormously significant to him when he killed the actual John G., the man who caused the incident. This is why he recognizes the photo, even though it happened after he lost his ability to create new memories. But Leonard will never get that tattoo on his chest that he seems to want in this photo. As the end of the film suggests, this tattoo will forever be a recurring fantasy of peace and closure that he will chase again and again for the rest of his life. Alright, that's my analysis. Subscribe for weekly videos and please send me recommendations. The Witch is next in the series, which I can't wait to upload, but please let me know your thoughts and theories and ideas on this incredible movie, Memento. I hope to see you again, and thank you so much for watching. See you later.